Hey guys, there is my carbon fibre skin bonnet. I'm going to pin that on the T4 soon, but I've got something really cool to show you. I'm down here with the man himself, Kelly of Audio Sport. And he's just going to talk us through what he's actually done for me. Kelly does a panel called the Euro panel, which you can see now. It's like one that goes straight across, really popular. But in order to get the scoop one for mine, I sent my metal one down to Kelly to have a look at, take some measurements, and mate, do you want to talk me through what you've done?
Right, well this is the plug or the master mould or the original, whichever way you want to put it. This is obviously the shape of the original front panel. We've added the scoop to this one side, primed it, painted it, to make the mould from, so we can produce them. So as I said, this is the master mould or the plug. So this mould was made from the plug. Anything you do in fiberglass replicates exactly into the GRP mould. So this is exactly the same as this.
Cool.
We made that mould, and then obviously from the mould we then
now
make
got the panel,
the actual panel from it, and we can mass produce these as many as the mould will take. Basically, really easy to paint. It's lightweight, doesn't rust, doesn't buckle.
You've got the keys on the side as well, just to pin in.
Yeah.
You know, I said to you about this about probably a year ago, didn't I? About
Yeah,
one made up.
Then, yeah.
And I thought, well, look, if I get one made for myself, great. This is going to go on my van now. And if anyone else wants one, just drop me a message. I'll put a link in the description. So if you want one, you can have one. Absolutely. Happy days. Well, mate, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Cheers.
Pleasure always.
Right, guys, back home. And here's my original scoop panel here on the T4. As you can see, it's taken a bit of a battering over time. It's also disformed in a couple of places. You can see it bends. Absolutely great job. But as time goes on, it does start to rust. Whereas on the back of my new panel, it can't rust because it's not metal. I've got some beautiful weather. I've just put some 800 grit over. I'm going to use some paint preparation wipes and re-lacquer it just to get it back to its former glory. Should hopefully look quite nice. The weave does look good, but it has gone a bit faded in areas. Obviously, Kelly had this just purely as a test prototype, really. So I'm just so glad he's actually let me have it to try and do something with, rather than him chucking away, which is awesome. I've got a few bits and pieces I've got to touch in and drop some resin into. Once I've got some lacquer on, I can actually get a better idea of you know, what the story is underneath. There you go, I've added some lacquer. Look at that. How nice does that look? Well chuffed with that. Now I've just got to mark out where I'm going to put the pins and figure out where needs reinforcing underneath, and should be good to get it on. Right guys, cracking on with the fuel system today. Couple of beers in the sunshine. Got the old gold bars as well. These are rattlers. And here's Mikey. We've seen him here plenty of times. Soldering on the lift pump. Now I've just kept the standard Audi TT 225 pump in there at the moment. That's not making any pressure. All it's doing is feeding the swirl pot. I've got an Aeromotive fuel rail, and I've got my single AN6 return for there, back to the fuel regulator, and then fuel regulator into the swirl pot here. Whenever you're cutting these AN PTFE lines, you want to wrap a bit of masking tape around so that when you cut through, it keeps the ends nice and tight and doesn't flay everywhere and go crazy. You can see where they're positioned. I want them both to stack on top of one another. I'm going to need to get them to overlap slightly, so that hole's going to have to be a bit higher there. Behind this aluminium there's actually the original battery leg. Just going to drill out some washers for the back so everything's on nice and tight. There you go, got the pumps mounted just with these straps here that I got from Hydroscanned. 2 bolts, nice and tight with a big washer behind. A big shout out to Jim Halligan, one of my friends on the T17 Club page. He sent me down one of his spare fuel pumps, and here it is. Thanks a lot, bud. Happy with that. That's nice and solid. That ain't going anywhere. So let's just get it all connected up. Hopefully you can see that now. I'm just doing up these bits here. This is the 2 main feeds for the rail. These are AN8. So I've basically stepped up from AN6 from the pot, and then where it's pressurised I've gone up to 8, so it's a bit bigger and it'll flow a bit better. I've took this really seriously. I've even got an aluminium spanner just to make sure I don't mark everything. There we go, it's nice and tight, that's not going anywhere. Right then, I think that's it for the moment. So now it's just going to be... This is how a PTFE fitting works. You get your collet, so this little compression ring here, ta-da! You take your fitting, push her in, there you go, and you can see that there's a bit of room for that to just squish down and then tighten away. This part stays fixed because everything's inside. The nut winds up around it, so the nut is compressing as it's going up, it's squeezing in to compress that collet. The swirl pot basically acts as a little reservoir, so we've got fuel coming in through here, swirling around, it then goes out through here, 2 feeds, 1 for each pump, it's a staged pump setup, so one pump's going to be running all the time at the same time as the one inside the van, so that's always going to be pumping round. Now to stop the flow going from the main one here and going back that way, you have these two bits here which are check valves, and what they do is they stop the fuel going back through the other pump. It then comes through here and then splits off into two, feeds each side of the fuel rail. These are Turbo Smart fuel filters into the rail. Then we have a single AN6 return back into the fuel pressure regulator. Turbo Smart one, absolutely gorgeous. This one is the FPR 800, so it's good for up to 800 horsepower's worth of fuel. I'm now going to bring power into the engine bay. I've decided that I'm going to take it through just here. Drilled a little pilot hole with 6mm, so just going through now. Starter to alternator. I've made sure I've put a nice fat cable onto the alternator because I've got a small battery, so I want to make sure there's plenty of current getting into the circuit. I've taken the fuel pump out because this is the Audi TT pump. Now, normal T4 petrol pump actually sits down at the bottom of the tank and connects to the top, but the car pump from a TT is actually about 2 inches short. Now that means that at the bottom of the tank here you actually end up with about 2 inches of fuel that you can never actually get. That fuel's been in there now for about 2 years, so I'm just going to siphon it out and put it into here, and then I'm going to fill up with a brand new load of nitro or V-Power, whatever you want to call it, so that the engine's got nice fresh fuel. Okay, so I want to get a little siphon going to get the fuel out of the tank. Little syringe here, because if you use your mouth with fuel, it's pretty minging. I'm going to draw it through here. And there's a fuel. And there's a siphon. As long as it's lowered in the tank, gravity will do the rest. You just have to give it a bit of help to get it started. Right, I managed to get 40 litres out of the tank, so that's all done. Next thing I want to do before I think about putting the exhaust manifold and everything on is sort out the water feed for the turbo. So here's the old one. It has a banjo adapter here. Obviously that goes off to the turbo, so I'm ditching that. I'm now going over to AN6 male to an M14 adapter on the back. Got two copper crush washers, and I've also got the bolts. I'm going to put that in now. The water feed on a 18T is this one here, just on the back of the block, so that's where that banjo is going to go on, so I'll just do that now. Right then, banjo's now on, all connected up with the AN6. I've just put some of this Kevlar heatproof tape over, and I've got some proper sleeve up here for where it goes into the turbo. Just going to tidy everything up now, get the rocker cover sealed down finally, and get the exhaust manifold on. I managed to pick myself up a scrap alternator off one of the engines I stripped, and I kept it just because there are so many little useful plugs on it. I'm really fussy about plugs, I like them all to match. There you go. Twisted the wires together now. Very oddly satisfying watching the solder go in. I've no idea why. Very nice. And there you go, correct plug on the alternator, and the wiring looking spot on. Right, one thing that has been bothering me is these brake lines. They've been very wobbly. This here keeps popping off and it's a bit of a nightmare. So what I've done is I've gone and got these new brackets from VW. There's a part number if you want it. These brake lines were just rattling against the bulkhead because they weren't held on properly. And there you go, the reason this bit kept failing because that bit's broken. So now I've got two of these. It's that one on. Nice solid brackets on there now, so just pop them in. And there we go, no more rattling around. She's on. Right then, cam cover's on. That's all sealed up. There's a little bit of a bead coming through there, which is nice, so that's all good. And what I'm going to do now is make a heat shield for the core packs. I'm just going to have one thin piece of aluminium. Aluminium melts at about 650 degrees from memory. If it does start to, get too hot and start to break apart, then I'll just have to go up to titanium in future, which is about 1600 from memory. Let's put the manifold on and just see what clearances we got. As you can see, it's quite close, but we have got a nice bit of space there. Ideally, I want to have the heat shield off the exhaust manifold. I don't really want it resting against because that's just going to conduct even more heat. Right, it's down top. I've just marked out with a pen roughly where I want the line to go. I've got a piece of aluminium here from Wix, pretty straightforward. Just going to go on there like that. Right, and tape measure. That's nice. Yeah, they have. These holes are exactly 10 centimeters apart. That makes things easier, doesn't it? Is that one at the end the same? No, it's not. So the one at the end is slightly different. 30, 20, 10. So that one's 8.5 for the end. So if you are making a heat shield cover, just remember it's 10, 10 and 8.5. Right, I'm going to come 7 over the end. I'm just going to bring it slightly over because it's about 6.5, so I'm going to take it to 7. So it's basically going to be 7, 17, 27 plus 8.5, which is 35.5. So that'll go on the end there. Alright, and that's all marked out, cut out now. Got to do a bit more bending I'm actually using a decking. Right, I know you think this is probably a bit basic, but I don't have a garage or the luxury of fancy tools, so I've been using the decking to fold it. I think I'm kind of there now. Obviously if you had a press brake you could get that really nice. Now I've got my VW copper nuts for the manifold, so I'm just going to torque it all down now and mount the turbo on. There we go, nothing fancy, but it'll just keep a bit of the heat off these coil packs. And there's a bit of a space in there as well, bit of clearance so that you're not getting direct contact. Before I get the front on, I thought it'd be a nice opportunity to treat myself to a nice set of injectors. I've got these Injector Dynamics 1050Xs. They're basically 1000cc injectors, but they're a little bit better than that. What I'm going to do is rip out the Decker 630s, get these popped in their place. These are capable of doing 600 horsepower, so these will do me for the meantime. And in all fairness, they might do me, period, because we need to see how much power we can put down first. But for drag racing, I can always top up the rest with a nitrous, and these really 1050Xs should be absolutely fine for this. Right, I'm making some good progress now. Got the front panel on. Now I'm just going to sort out the coolant feed. That's going to go on there. Obviously going to chop it down. Jubilee clip around the hose. I'll cut that now. It's going to look a lot better, and you'll get a much sharper edge. Nice little test fit. There we go, and that's roughly in line with the tube that's further down. Sweet. Get the joiner higher up here. It will then give us a nicer curve on the bottom half of the pipe. So the bottle's a 19mm ID, and I've gone down to 16. So that's 19 on that side and 16 on this side. There you go, that's on, so that's got to come out a bit more, and that's going to go on there like that. Actually about there, isn't it? Bought one of these off eBay. It's about a £5. It's an aluminium coolant hose joiner, but you'll see if you look inside, you'll see there's quite a few casting flashes. So there you go, there's a good example on this side. So I'm just going to get my carbide bit on the drill. There you go, it's all nice and smooth in there now. The plan was to have some 6x9s in, but unfortunately I've just, obviously the direction of the van's changed so much, I'm just going to put a sheet aluminium on the back here, just so it doesn't look too bad. And put them up for sale. If anyone's keen, obviously drop me a message. Right, we've got a nice evening where it's not raining. I've got about 1 hour of daylight left, so I'm going to try and get what I can done. This is the SEM inlet manifold for the large port. It comes with an 80mm measurement there for the throttle body plate. Now, I didn't want to put a 1.8T one on because it seemed a bit silly to go from 80 down to a tiny 1.8T one. I'll show you the difference between the two. Now, a lot of people with the 80mm inlet manifold will actually go up to an 80mm. It might get it off an R32 or something like that. With the engine swap, I don't have any fancy electric pedals or anything inside the van, so to keep things simple, I'm sticking with cable. You'll see the 1.8T plugs and the VR6 ones both match. To give you an idea in size between the two, here's the 1.8T one and here's the VR6. I've measured the bar inside to give me the diameter. On the 1.8T one I've got 57mm, and on the VR6 one I've got 67mm. So a bit of quick maths, obviously you can see there, comes in at 38.2% increase in size by going up to this one. Right, so that covers the throttle bodies, and here is the throttle body adapter. This one here is a prototype, just for me to test some stuff on. I did a sketch for Ant just outlining what I was looking for, so he knocked this up for me on CAD. I then sent it off to Rob at SWR, the company behind the adapter. Rob did a fantastic job of just getting it looking exactly how I wanted. Even put my logo on there for me as well. I've even had a bit of weight taken out of it as well, with a bit of pocketing, and also a meth port or nitrous port, depending on your flavour of power increases. Now, I have had a slight modification made to it by my friend Nick at Team Brawn Racing. Nick is a bit of a guru. If you don't follow Nick, you need to. If you're a 1.8T guy or you're into tuning in general or track days, he is the man, really. Right then, I've now mounted the adapter on. So what I need to do is mark out where that plate's got to go. Now, the simple way to do this, of course, is going to be to use a piece of angle. I've got some 3mm here from Wix. That plate on there, that'll line up beautifully. So I'm just going to mark it all up on where it's got to go. Right, it's too dark outside now, so I'm going to crack on in here. So I'm going to leave a centimetre on each side, so in total it's going to need to be 8.5 long. I've marked out on this bit of metal what I need to do. Let me know if you enjoy seeing this sort of stuff, because you know, some people just like to see the finished product and a little walk around. If people do like seeing the stage by stage stuff and also just the workings of what's what, then do let me know, because I'm just winging this. I'm not a tuner or anything else, I'm just figuring this out as I go along. I've now marked out the bolt holes for the adapter onto this bit of metal, and that's going to basically act as a throttle plate. It'll go on there on the other side. Holes have been drilled so I can get it bolted to the adapter now. Right, there we go, that's all bolted up. So now I can mark out exactly where the hole needs to go for the cable to go through here. Nice and close, so I'm not going to get too much kink in the cable as well. And it's going to go about there. There you go, it's all been trimmed up now, so I'm just going to cut that flush so that it doesn't interfere with the throttle body, and then feed the cable back through and get it painted. There we go, it's looking nice. Pretty minging weather today. Focus. Oh my god, you G7X piece of shit. Finally, after 2 minutes, the G7X decides to catch up. Right then, that's the throttle body mounted on now. I've got to get a proper cable. They've got like a bell shape on the end of the cable that clicks into this part here. For the next job, I'm just going to neaten up the front crash bar. There's a few bits and pieces here that aren't being used. There used to be a power steering pump reservoir here, so that's obviously going to go now. Just trim it off and get rid of it. I'll eventually need to modify this bit here for the intercooler piping to come through here or through here. I haven't decided where it's going to go yet. We'll know more once we get the intercooler mounted on and can see where it fits best. Right, I've got the turbo and wastegate bolted on now, nice and solid. I want to go at that angle there because that's going to give a nice clear run backwards for the exhaust when it gets put on. So now I've just got to work out the turbo drain. I've got the AN fitting on here. It's obviously going to go back that way. This gives me the angle that I need on the back of the sump. There's the AN12 fitting on the back. Right, there we go. So now I've just got to cut about there. Right, I managed to get quite a bit done today. Throttle body's now on, so that's looking good, all working fine. And I've also connected the turbo up, so it's now got the oil feed and the oil drain and also the water, return. Right, just had a quick text from Ant to say that he's going to be able to book me in for the exhaust next week. So I've got all of my exhaust parts. Ordered these bits here from Profusion Exhausts, really good quality. Got a nice Profusion V-band as well to go in. All fits together lovely. It's reassuring. Got a 6-inch box as well, 15 long, so it's about 40 centimetres.
Well, here we go. What happened, Leo?
Can't stop.
It's finally gone.
Can't